Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, today we're grabbing our medical bags, I guess you could say, and diving into the pretty manic streets of late 90s Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, neon drenched is right.
We're doing a deep dive into Martin Scorsese's 1999 film, Bringing Out the Dead.
And it's fascinating stuff, this film, because, look, it's pure Scorsese, unfiltered. He even teamed up again with Paul Schrader, the guy who wrote Taxi Driver.
Right?
And yet somehow it just completely missed the mark with audiences.
Yeah.
Big time. Made something like, what, $17 million worldwide?
Yeah, against a $55 million budget. Ouch.
Exactly.
And that's really the core question we want to tackle, isn't it? Why did this film critics liked it? It's got Scorsese's fingerprints all over it. Why did it fail commercially?
Well, I think people went in expecting, the usual Scorsese, the gritty characters, the guys who take what they want.
Like gangsters, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. But instead they got something, well, completely different. They got a main character almost crippled by empathy.
It's that shift, isn't it? From external conflict to, internal crisis.
Totally. Scorsese himself said his goal was, and I'm quoting here, to help us feel with the character, whether that's physical pain, trauma, or psychosis.
Wow. So you're not just watching a story unfold.
No, you're kind of forced into it. You have to endure this psychological breakdown right alongside the main character, the paramedic Frank Pierce. Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Okay, so let's unpack that goal a bit. We need to look at Scorsese's foundation, his style. He's the classic auteur, right? The director is the author.
Mm-hmm. That whole French New Wave idea. The camera style.
The camera as a pen,
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean in his films? How does that style express itself?
Well, it means his personality, his vision, it just permeates everything you see. And he took a lot from that French New Wave playbook,
Like what specifically?
Shooting on location, lots of handheld camera work, prioritizing the mise en scène.
Which is basically everything in the frame, the setting, the props, the lighting.
Right. And jump cuts. Instead of smooth editing, he'd use these jarring cuts. Gave it almost a documentary feel sometimes. Very immediate.
And he made those techniques his own, didn't he? Those famous traveling shots.
Oh, yeah. Where the camera just glides, moves right with the action. It creates this really fluid, authentic feeling.
You feel like you're in it, like in Goodfellas or Taxi Driver.
For sure. But here, in Bringing Out the Dead, think about applying that inside an ambulance during a crisis. It becomes almost overwhelming.
Because the subject matter is so different.
Exactly. Frank Pierce. He's not your typical Scorsese guy. He's not a mobster, not really a criminal.
No.
He's a paramedic.
Yeah.
Suffering from, chronic insomnia and this crushing guilt. He's haunted, literally, by the ghosts of people he couldn't save. Suicides, overdoses, spirits born half-finished, as he calls them.
And it all centers on this one patient, Rose, doesn't it? The sickness he has.
Yeah, that guilt over Rose is sort of the anchor for his whole breakdown.
That's a massive shift. We're not watching a crime story unfold. I remember Roger Ebert saying something about the structure.
Oh, yeah, Ebert nailed it. He said the film, wisely, has no real plot because the paramedics' days have no beginning or goal, but are a limbo of extended horror.
A limbo of extended horror, wow.
And that, I think, is key to why audiences maybe struggled. You take away that clear beginning, middle, end, the plot progression people expect.
And replace it with?
Pure psychological immersion. You don't get the relief points of a normal story. You just get this constant suffocating anxiety. And honestly, that can be exhausting to watch.
Okay, so Frank's mind is basically unraveling. How does Scorsese show us that? How does he translate that onto the screen? Which brings us to the visuals, the look of the film.
Right. If the character's world is falling apart, the camera has to reflect that. So first off, it's almost entirely shot at night.
Creates that graveyard shift feeling immediately.
Yeah, and they use these special Panavision anamorphic lenses. What they do is they distort lights, especially bright lights, gives them this stretched out, almost smeared look.
So street lights, ambulance lights,
Right.
they would look warped.
Exactly. And the lighting generally is super intense. Sometimes it just blows out parts of the image, washes it out completely. It simulates that sensory overload, the exhaustion Frank's feeling.
It sounds like a visual migraine, honestly. His cinematographer, Robert Richardson, must have been crucial for this.
Oh, absolutely. They leaned really heavily on chiaroscuro.
That's the high contrast thing, right? Deep blacks, bright lights.
Yeah, extreme light and shadow. It captures the grit, the dirt of the city, but then they contrast that sharply with the, cold, sterile feel of hospitals and clinics.
A world of extremes.
Visually, yes. And then there's the color, specifically red.
Ah, Scorsese's signature color. But it feels different here than in, say, his gangster films where it's often about blood, violence.
Exactly. Here, the red feels more like psychological danger, an alarm bell going off constantly in the background.
How so? Where do we see it?
Well, obviously in the ambulance, lights tracing through the night. But it's more subtle, too. It's embedded in the mise-en-scene, like the red bricks on Mary's apartment building. It's this constant, low-level visual cue that the world Frank inhabits is unstable, confused, maybe even destructive.
It's like the environment itself is sick.
Kind of.
Hmm.
And if the color and light weren't enough to put you on edge, the camera angles definitely are. They're designed to make you feel Frank's instability physically.
How did it do that?
Well, every emergency call triggers this intense rush.
Right.
Speed, color, sound, weird angles,
Yeah.
often cut together really fast like strobe lights, usually sync to some driving rock music. It's chaotic.
Yeah, you feel the adrenaline, but also the panic.
And the camera angles themselves. Scorsese uses a lot of oblique angles, Dutch angles they're called.
Where the camera's tilted?
Yeah, tilted sideways. So vertical lines like buildings or lampposts look slanted, askew. It instantly tells you something's wrong. The world is literally off kilter because Frank's perspective is shattering.
It's visual anxiety. Pure and simple.
Totally. And even when a shot might seem straightforward, like a low-angle shot making Frank look powerful, Scorsese will often position him weirdly in the frame, or combine it with a subtle tilt, which just reintroduces that feeling of threat, of danger. It keeps you, the viewer, completely unsettled.
It's relentless filmmaking. No wonder audiences maybe found it too much. It's not a comfortable watch.
I think that's fair. It really forces you into the character's suffering. It doesn't let you just sit back and enjoy the style like you might with, a gangster film. It demands you feel the pain with him.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to part 3. Because amidst all this chaos, Scorsese starts weaving in this theme of duality, especially using music, that scene with Mr. Burke.
Oh yeah, the montage where Frank keeps reviving Mr. Burke. That's brilliant.
Because while Frank's doing CPR, fighting to keep him alive, you hear Frank Sinatra singing the September of My Years.
Right. I'm a man who has always had the wandering ways. Now I'm reaching back for yesterday.
And your first thought is, okay, the song's about the old man, Mr. Burke, clinging to life, looking back.
Which it is, partly. But the duality is pure Scorsese. The song, it's just as much, maybe even more, about Frank.
How so?
It's about Frank trying to claw his way back from his own internal sickness, trying to become a saver again, reaching back for a time before the ghosts, before the guilt took over.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. It connects to what Scorsese said about the job.
Exactly. That it's not about ego, not just about yanking people back from the brink. It's about compassion, about suffering with them.
So Frank's real sickness isn't just burnout.
No, it's his inability, maybe his unwillingness, to be truly present and compassionate in those final moments because his own pain is just too loud in his head.
And that internal chaos really explodes in that hallucination sequence, doesn't it? The red lion pill scene with Cy, the drug dealer.
Oh, yeah. That scene is packed with symbolism. It starts right away with the fish tank.
The fish tank.
Yeah, it's like the perfect little visual metaphor. Cy, the dealer, he's like the poisonous Japanese anemone in the tank, pulling people in. But Frank, he's like the clownfish. And the clownfish survives only because it coats itself in the anemone's own mucus. That layer protects it, lets it live right there in that toxic environment.
So it suggests Frank has a survival instinct, even if it's buried under all the trauma.
Exactly, a kind of self-preservation mechanism. But then he takes the pill.
And he looks right at us, breaks the fourth wall. It's like he's dragging the viewer down with him.
Totally. And then the scene just dissolves. The room gets dark, Cy fades out, the fish swims backward. It's all going wrong.
And the music. Rang-tang ding-dong. I am a Japanese Sandman. That's incredibly jarring.
It really is. Because the Sandman, in folklore, he's supposed to bring sleep, bring peace.
Right, comfort.
But here, it's scoring Frank's complete loss of control, his desperate inability to sleep or find peace. It's the total opposite of comfort. Pure irony.
And the sequence doesn't resolve. It just shatters, right, into flashes of everything.
Yeah, flashes of past traumas, bodies, lights, chaos. And then it ends on these 3 really stark freeze frames. Frank jolting up, then an extreme close-up on his eyes, wide with panic, then his whole face.
Capturing that racing anxiety perfectly.
In just a few seconds, yeah. It's incredibly intense, emotionally draining filmmaking. And again, you can see why maybe a mainstream audience expecting a more conventional narrative might just recoil. Feels like a panic attack, not a plot point.
That makes total sense. Okay, moving into the final stretch, part 4. Frank does start to find a way out, find a cure, and it seems to begin with his partnership with Tom Wolfe. Tom Sizemore's
The
character.
Rough Riders, yeah. Tom is all adrenaline, all actions, kind of the opposite of Frank's internal paralysis,
Mm.
and Frank seems almost captivated by him for a bit.
But he realizes that's not the answer either, right? He starts to see his own role in prolonging suffering, like with Mr. Burke.
Exactly. He realizes he started that cycle of resuscitation from Mr. Burke, who coded something like 14 times after Frank first brought him back. He sees that just fighting death isn't always compassion.
So true compassion means accepting things, even death.
Or at least not imposing your own will onto someone else's suffering. And the big turning point, the real breakthrough, it doesn't come when he saves some innocent victim. It comes when he finds Cy.
For the drug dealer.
Yeah, Cy, impaled on a fence railing.
And what happens then?
Frank's reaction is immediate, instinctive. He doesn't judge, he doesn't hesitate, he just becomes the pure medic. Holds Cy's head, shows real concern, real compassion. The very thing he couldn't manage with Rose because his guilt got in the way.
He's finally present.
He is. And then when the railing gives way, Frank is clipped in safely, but Cy isn't. And Frank saves him, pulls him back from falling. It's this selfless act, saving someone arguably undeserving, that really shows Frank is starting to conquer the sickness. He's choosing compassion over his own internal narrative of guilt.
Wow. So the final absolution has to be internal then, psychological.
Completely. It happens later, down in the basement, when he's helping another patient, Noel.
Yeah.
And Rose's ghost appears.
Hmm.
But she looks like Mary, the woman he's connected with.
The double image again.
Yeah. And she finally gives him the key. She tells him, "It's not your fault. No one asked you to suffer. That was your idea."
That was your idea. That line just reframes everything, doesn't it? All the chaos, the visual hellscape. Maybe it wasn't just the city, but his perception of it, fueled by self-imposed guilt.
Precisely. And this is where the film really breaks from the Scorsese mold. The ending isn't tragic or violent for the protagonist. We're actually rooting for Frank, the savior, to find peace.
And he does. He finally
He
sleeps.
finally sleeps, yeah. Cured. He's lying next to Mary, and the image just sort of softens, fades into this almost halo-like glow. It suggests time has passed, peace has finally been found.
So all that incredible, sometimes brutal technique, the lighting, the colors, the angles, the editing, it was all in service of this deeply humane story.
Absolutely. It wasn't just style for style's sake. It was about getting us inside the head and heart of this character.
So wrapping up, the real value of Bringing Out the Dead isn't just the technical mastery, though that's undeniable. It's this really empathetic picture of a good person in profound crisis. Scorsese pushed past his usual anti-heroes to show us real suffering, and importantly, a real cure.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. If Frank's suffering, and maybe even the chaotic way he experienced the city, was ultimately his own idea, as Rose's ghost suggests, how much of that intense, manic visual style we see wasn't just reflecting Hell's Kitchen, but reflecting Frank's own internal refusal to accept forgiveness, his rejection of peace? Makes you think, doesn't it? When things feel overwhelming, how much is the world and how much is our perspective on it?